Hello. For my project, I am making a custom mouse. So when I'm looking at this mouse, I'm generally looking for something that I'm going to be using just for like basic work, like office work, CAD work, etc. Just something like nice to use. So for my minimum requirements, basically I just need a functional mouse. I want it to have functional scroll wheel, left and right clicks. I want to have side switches that can work for like copy and paste, potentially other different button options. I want to have Bluetooth communication, and I want it to be rechargeable with a USB-C charger. Then looking ahead to my ideal requirements, I'd like to have programmable side switches, likely four total, two to four. I'd like the battery life to be displayed with an RGB LED so that I can have different colors displaying how much battery life is left. And I would like my mouse to be rechargeable via USB-C charger and also wireless charging. And then getting to my stretch goals, this is sort of what the ideal mouse would be. Hopefully I can make something that's more reaching these goals, but I'd like the mouse to come with a custom mouse pad for wireless charging. I'd also like there to be a website that comes with the mouse that displays the battery life, and then that also on that website you could program your buttons as well on there. And it'd be really cool. This is where the custom comes in of my custom mouse, is to be able to have multiple enclosures that the electronics would work with. So basically being able to 3D print and design different enclosures that the electronics would fit into. So making the electronics modular so that they can sort of fit with any enclosure, and then allows me to experiment with different mouse styles, so maybe some of the more ergonomic mouse styles as you see below, instead of the standard that I've been showing before. So in terms of design choices, I've picked out a few different sensors and options for like the power and the MCU. In terms of sensors, you can see I have on the right, I have basic like snap action switches and a scroll wheel encoder, and then I also have an optical sensor. And then for power, I'm using a LiPo battery, and then I'm going to have USB-C and wireless charging modules to help me charge that. And then for my MCU, I'm using the NRF chip, the 52840. So yeah, this allows for the Bluetooth, and it's also more power efficient and just like easier to work with than the ESP32, more commonly used for mice and like other small Bluetooth devices. In terms of my current progress, I've worked a lot on setting the project goals, trying to narrow in exactly what I want, ordering the parts that I need, and then now this week what I've been working on preparing for next week when components come in is making a more detailed circuit diagram and a testing plan, so thinking about all the different parts underneath and what I need to test, and breaking that apart, so just like the power management and then each of the different components, researching the pins, etc., finding data sheets. So in terms of my Gantt chart, finished milestone 1, which is basically just, planning out everything that I need, making my goals, and then, since then I've been working on circuit diagram and testing plan, and then next week I'm planning on testing all the different parts as soon as they come in. So breaking that into different parts like the charging circuit, the optical sensor, the scroll wheel, Bluetooth, etc. And then for my BOM you can see all the different parts that I got, so all the modules and then all the different sensors. In terms of market research, this target population, since this is a pretty like customizable and like basic mouse, I'm not trying to make it more optimized for gaming, so pretty much just anyone who needs a wireless mouse, more targeted for people who want it for work or school, but definitely could be used for a lot of different cases. And the current market size for wireless mouses or wireless mice is valued at approximately 2 billion and is growing very drastically. A lot of my competitors that I'd be looking at are Logitech, Razer, and Corsair. There's quite a few different brands. These are the ones that generally make specifically like the wireless charging mice, and that's pretty like recent development. A lot of people have been making that with the matching mouse pad. And then in terms of when I spoke to people for interviews, a couple of things people consider when buying a mouse that maybe you wouldn't think of is like the shape and aesthetics of it. So how well it fits in your hand, and how it looks, maybe like the shape, the color, etc. That's something that I'm hoping to target with like playing around with different shells for the mouse and potentially even molding one and like scanning it, sort of seeing like what fits best for my hand, and then being able to make something that'll work really well for me. And then also really nice to have the Bluetooth, and like considering also battery life, so making sure that the mouse doesn't die pretty quickly. And then in terms of like technical details, as I did some interviews, is to like considering for the long battery life to use components with a low idle power draw, and just making sure that I structure the code well so that I'm saving as much energy as possible, trying to have all the components sleep and only be awake during interrupts, so that saves a lot of power. And they also recommended the NRF chips and a lot of the sensors. In terms of learning so far, this is probably sort of like something people would know or self-explanatory, but I had never really realized that there's like a lot of components specifically for mice, because especially for like the switches, it's really important to have something that has a really long life. So you're gonna be clicking these buttons over and over and over for like hours every single day. So like I could use a basic push button, and I actually did see like a mouse kit that you could buy that does use basic push buttons, but those would fail a lot quicker than an actual switch designed for like a mouse or something like that, because they just have like a lot longer of a life. And then also I didn't know, but you can use battery monitoring circuits to calculate the remaining percentage of a LiPo battery, and that can be really useful. So there is a way to actually calculate that, which I didn't really understand that before, and I'm going to learn a lot more about in the next few weeks. So my questions to you all is, what is your favorite feature on a computer mouse, and something that you couldn't live without, so something maybe on your mouse that you have now or on one if you were to buy one that you've seen on the market that you think is like the most valuable or really useful. And then what is something that you think existing computer mice are lacking, something that is missing in the market that could be added or could see being a really helpful feature. That's all I have. Thank you.